In June 1942, the Pacific War changed forever. A small island, Midway Atoll, became the stage for a battle that would decide the fate of the Pacific. In the months leading up to Midway, Japan had successfully expanded its empire across the Pacific, seizing key islands and territories. They had crushed the American forces at Pearl Harbor, and now they sought to eliminate the U.S. Navy's remaining strength. Midway was strategically important to both the U.S. and Japan. The U.S. Navy saw it as a critical outpost for defending the Pacific, while Japan viewed it as a stepping stone toward dominating the entire Pacific region. Admiral Yamamoto Isoroku, the architect of the Pearl Harbor attack, had carefully devised the strategy for this next phase of the war. He hoped that by destroying the U.S. Navy at Midway, he could secure Japanese supremacy in the Pacific. To achieve this, he planned a diversionary attack on the Aleutian Islands, while the main assault would focus on Midway. The hope was that the U.S. would be caught off guard, allowing Japan to strike a decisive blow. What Yamamoto didn't count on was the U.S. Navy's cryptographers, who had cracked the Japanese Navy's secret communication codes. The breakthrough, led by naval intelligence officers like Commander Joseph Rochefort, allowed the U.S. to learn about Japan's plans to attack Midway days before it happened. The codebreakers were able to decipher the Japanese message indicating that AF was the target, a code for Midway. This critical intelligence gave the U.S. Navy a significant advantage. With the knowledge of the impending attack, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, formulated a counterplan to ambush the Japanese forces. In a brilliant stroke of military strategy, Nimitz was able to move his fleet into position to strike back. Midway's fate was now tied to the Americans' ability to execute a flawless defense. On June 4th, 1942, the battle began. The Japanese launched their first wave of attacks, sending bombers and fighters to strike the U.S. positions on Midway Atoll. However, the Americans were ready. Midway's defenses, though limited, withstood the initial bombardment. The U.S. Navy's aircraft were already airborne, ready to meet the Japanese attack head-on. At the same time, the Japanese Navy launched their full-scale assault, sending their fleet of aircraft carriers to bombard Midway and attempt to destroy the U.S. forces stationed there. The Japanese Navy relied heavily on its superior numbers and the strength of its aircraft carriers. But what they didn't anticipate was the resilience of the American pilots and the sheer luck on their side. The first American strikes came from the U.S. Navy's bombers, launched from the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise and USS Hornet. These planes struck with precision, targeting the Japanese carriers in a series of daring attacks. Though many American bombers were shot down, their courage paid off. Several bombs hit their mark, with one bomb from a dauntless dive bomber hitting the Japanese carrier, Akagi. The turning point of the battle came later that same day, when American dive bombers launched their final assault. As the Japanese were rearming and refueling their aircraft for another wave of attacks on Midway, the Americans struck with devastating force. At precisely the right moment, American bombers hit the Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, with a combination of bombs and torpedoes. The attacks were catastrophic for the Japanese fleet. The Akagi, flagship of the Japanese fleet, was hit hard and began to burn. The Kaga followed suit, and soon both ships were sinking. The Soryu was also struck and engulfed in flames, while Hiryu, the last remaining Japanese carrier, was damaged shortly afterward. In the span of just a few hours, Japan's once formidable naval force had been crippled. By the end of June 4th, Japan had lost 4 of its aircraft carriers, a blow from which they would never fully recover. The U.S. Navy, though suffering losses, had dealt a decisive blow to Japan's Pacific Fleet. The Japanese forces were forced to retreat, and the United States had secured a critical victory. The Battle of Midway marked the beginning of a new phase in the Pacific War. From this point forward, the Japanese Navy would struggle to regain its strength. Meanwhile, the United States would continue its offensive, pushing Japan back across the Pacific, eventually leading to victory in 1945. Midway was not just a military triumph. It was a testament to the power of intelligence, strategy, and the courage of the men and women who fought in the skies and on the sea. The Battle of Midway wasn't just a victory, it was a turning point in the Pacific War. But what if things had turned out differently? What could have changed the course of this pivotal battle? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from history. We've got more coming soon, so stay tuned.